it's working. Yes, I can see and hear you. Yay. Okay. I am so sorry about the technical difficulties, but we will get started today. We really appreciate you guys joining us this morning. We are going to talk about claims and receiving. These is, important processes that you need to know. Just some small housekeeping things. All recordings have been put up on the website. Today's packet is up there as well. So if you are needing that information, it is available to you. We are kind of coming towards the end of these sessions this month. We've got one more session for you guys. I believe it's the 17th. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's the 17th. We've got Courts, Jeff Weiss, and we have Galen Strickland from Court Technology coming to kind of be able to answer any questions that you might have, to talk to you. So that's kind of that's your last one for the sessions. Once that's complete, I'm hoping by the end of next week to go ahead and get the surveys sent out. The surveys are just, how'd you like the sessions? Are they good? Would you have liked to see this a little bit, maybe a little bit different? Were they helpful at all? Just, it'll be really, really short. It'll be anonymous. We're just kind of trying to get a feel. Obviously, they had to be different this year because of COVID, but we do want to learn from these and make them better and maybe even incorporate some of these sessions into other trainings. So be as honest as you possibly can through those. I also want to touch on certifications. So we will be sending out a letter to you to certify the number of hours that you received from these trainings. To get credit for that, all you had to do was log into the session and be present. So as long as you've logged in, I do get a report when you're in here, and we're keeping track of those people who've logged in. So you'll get the credit that you were here. So I think that covers my spiel, about all the housekeeping. What I do want to remind you is we will open it up at the end for any questions that you might have. You can also use the chat box if you feel like you have something you need to ask, during the presentation. And we will go from there. Okay, so what I do want to start with is we reached out to Secretary of State. I'm going to close this. To do a session for you guys. So we were looking forward to them coming, and we really, really tried to work this out since like November. She's just extremely busy. We just could not make it work for this time. So she's hoping to be able to be at the conference later this year, but again, it just depends on scheduling wise and really COVID, what's happening with there. But she graciously offered to record a video for us to play for you guys, just as an introduction to the Secretary of State's office, what they do, that kind of thing. It's about, I want to say 7 or 8 minutes long. I do want to give a little bit of a warning. So I'm going to play this video to start out this session. But playing here, it pauses. There are pauses in between it. So even though the video is only 7 or 8 minutes, it will take a little bit longer to get through. No words are missing. So if you pay attention, it's not, we're not skipping words. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you. I also have it up on the website so that you guys can go back and watch it maybe without that pausing that's happening. I think it has something to do with the interface with WebEx and my hotspot that I'm using to broadcast to you now. So I do apologize for that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just for whatever reason it likes to pause. So I'm going to play the video, and then we're going to come back in and get started on claims and receiving. Desktop. Did it disappear? No, it's there. It's just, for whatever reason. Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties, I tell you. There it is. Okay, so bear with me here.
back.
We're back. So sorry if you all heard me sneeze. I did take my microphone off, so I apologize. I thought I had muted myself and I hadn't. Okay. Again, I apologize for the pausing in that video. It is on the website. Go ahead and you can go and watch that later. And it doesn't play choppy like that. Again, I think it's just playing it through WebEx through my hotspot, which is causing that delay, that little bit of an issue. But we do want to tell her thank you. We appreciate her taking that time to video that for us. If you go back and rewatch this recording, that video does not record. We can't record videos within the WebEx, so that's why we have to put it up separately. So if there's a blank spot on the recording, you'll know why. Well, that brings us to why we're here, right? Everybody's excited?
I'm excited.
You like claims and receipting?
I do.
Me too.
I like reconciling too, but then I'm an accounting nerd, so it kind of goes with.
It's a big puzzle. It all goes together. Okay. So let me make sure that this is you. Okay. I'm assuming you see my notes.
So your notes.
Gonna move.
Nope. And you've got a box.
Gotta move. Yeah, there we go. Let me.
Looks good.
To this page. And you to that page. Okay, so it looked good. All right.
Good.
Okay, so this is it's a fun topic for accountants, right? That's claims and receipting. It's not just that, it's how you take in your money and it's how you spend your money. So we're going to go over this. We're going to kind of start from instead of starting with claims, we're going to start with receipting and kind of take you through that process of taking in money and turning in collections, and then take it to the flip side to where you're actually going through that claims process. So we're going to start with fees. So as clerk, your office will be collecting filing fees along with child support, and you do collect trust account monies. I will really only be discussing the filing fees here because while child support and trust money is collected by the clerk, there's different rules that are at play, and it always remains on the clerk's records until it's dispersed to the appropriate party. That those two are just never county money. Okay, so the filing fees are outlined within statute, and we've created these schedule of filing fees by case type based on the statute to help you easily identify the fees allowed to be charged. Really, it's like an 8-page document that, again, is sorted by case type. And all of the statutes are referenced throughout it. We also, any additional notes that might needed to be referenced are in there as well. The statute also outlines how these fees are to be distributed by defining percentages that go either to the state, to the county, or the city and town. So we've also created a distribution of court costs and fees that identify how each fee is distributed. It also gives the statute and the fund that it is to be distributed in. So I put these two examples up here. It's just really the first page of it. I know it's kind of small, so bear with me. But like as an example, if you were going to charge a fee for court costs for a criminal case, okay, that fee is set in statute 333741, and it's $120. Okay, so now you know what you're supposed to collect. How is it distributed? So if you look at the number all the way to the far left, right next to court costs, you see the number 15. All right, this number is important when you're trying to figure out the distribution. If you now take that number 15, let's go over and look at the distribution of court costs and fees. If you go down to number 15 on this list, you're going to see court costs. And across shows you how it's distributed. 27% stays with the county, while 70% goes to the state and 3% will go to the cities and towns. The statute is referenced to the right, which tells us how it is distributed. And if you see the number that's right next to each percentage in a parentheses, this is showing you which fund on the county's ledger that it should be posted to, so the auditor's ledger. So for this case, okay. So the county portion would go to the general fund, and I don't have the bottom. These parentheses numbers are at the very, very end of the sheet. I just couldn't get it all on this slide. So the number 1 here would represent the general fund, while the state portion would be to the state share of court costs, and then the city-town portion would go to the city-town court cost fund, which is that number 15. So again, I know this is really small, but these schedules are available on the Clerks page of the SBOA website. The web address up here on the slide is where you would go. You have to scroll down to resources and click the little arrow next to it, and they're underneath there. Now, most of you have software such as Odyssey that really does a lot of this for you. Okay, it's already in the programming. But if you're wanting to know where they come from or where we get that information, these are a wonderful resource. Okay, so let's just say someone comes in, they're going to pay a fee. So what type of payment can be received? So this is outlined in IC 36-1-811C. It outlines that a payment to a political subdivision for any purpose may be made by any of the following financial instruments that the fiscal body of a political subdivision authorizes for use. Your fiscal body is your council, okay? So in this case, it could be cash, it could be check, it could be a bank draft. This would also include cashier's checks, counter checks, a money order, a bank card or a credit card, electronic funds transfer, those kinds of things. Please keep in mind, though, that debit, edit, EFTs, those can result in timing issues from when you record the receipt to when you actually receive the money, okay? And then the same statute under D, it notes that on this slide, it notes that it's authorized that if there is a service charge for such items, such as an EFT, these charges may be collected from the payee. Did I skip a slide? No, I didn't. Okay. All right, so important information about collecting payments. Receipts are to be issued and recorded at the time of the transaction, okay? So this would be recorded if you have software inside your software. It needs to be recorded to your ledger. That's what we mean by recorded, okay? So you're either going to do the software or possibly you're still doing manual, but I haven't seen anybody do manual in a while. But it would be the ledger, so whatever you're using. So we always record timely. You never backdate, okay? So if you collect something today, it needs to be receipted in today. If you collected something and you didn't receipt it in today, which I don't suggest, and you come in tomorrow, then you receipt it with tomorrow's date. You never come backwards with it, okay? Collections could be received through the mail from some individuals. Again, same thing. They should be recorded at the time of receipt. Receipts should be issued for all collections, okay? And an approved or prescribed receipt should be used. Proper internal controls need to be in place for handling these collections as well. So, an example, the same employee should not be receipting money into the ledger and making the deposit, okay? Another thing is cash drawers. Your cash drawer should not be shared. Everyone should have their own drawer. All right, that's pretty important. So while Okay, so then employees handling collections should be properly bonded as well. Now, while the clerk is required to be bonded for at least $30,000, you also need to think about your employees who are handling those collections within the office, okay, because they are required to have a bond as well. Anyone handling any cash should have received some sort of internal control training, okay, and completed the certification form, and this is filed in the auditor's office. If you're unsure if this has been done, this training has been done, reach out to your county auditor. They are required to keep a file of the certifications, and if it hasn't been done, they should be able to get you what you need to be able to do that training and to fill out the certification. Okay, so the Indiana Code 51361 is what governs the procedures for depositing. Requires daily deposits for over $500. I am going to guess you're always going to have over $500, but let's just play devil's advocate and say one day you didn't, and you had under $500. You wouldn't have to deposit that day, but as soon as you got to the 500 mark, you would need to make a deposit. You need to make sure that this money is stored in a secure location, okay? So if you do have less than $500 and you're not going to make a deposit for the day, it does need to be in something like a safe, something that is secure and limited access. But we recommend doing it every single day, okay? The statute also addresses designated depositories, and so we put the website here that contains the list of the most recently listed approved depositories. Report of collections. So this is a prescribed form. It's General Form 362. You may have software, again, that has a report of collections that's used where you print it. It's an alternative to this prescribed form, so you may not be filling it out by hand. The report of collections is used to transfer the custody of cash to the treasurer's office, okay? It should include a list of the description of what you've collected, include the funds you're wanting it to be credited to. The auditor needs to know this so that they know where to receipt it. Collections for this period, prior collections, and then the year-to-date collections. All right, so when you are remitting these monthly, it is considered timely if it's made by the 10th of the following month. Okay, so today's would be still considered timely for January's report of collections. The report of collections should also agree to collections posted in the ledger for the filing fees, I should say. Okay, so now you have received your money, you have created your report of collections. Now it's time to take that money and transfer it over to the county ledger. So once you've got your report of collections and your check for your collections that you've written for the prior month, we have the following three-step process that needs to be observed. So step one, you take your report of collections to the auditor to be filed and to allow the auditor to prepare an application to pay that shows the date, the credited amount, and source, and funds to be credited. The application to pay then tells the treasurer which funds are to be posted. All right, so now you've turned in your report of collections to the auditor. Now you still have your check and you still have your application to pay, okay? That takes us to step two. You take that application to pay that's prepared by the auditor to the treasurer's office along with your check. The treasurer will verify the amount of money that you have to the application to pay. Make sure that they're in agreement. Once done, the treasurer will take the money and the application to pay and issue you a receipt. Okay, the treasurer is responsible for holding the money of the county, which is why they count it, why they deposit it. The treasurer issues a receipt that shows the amount paid and the funds credited. Okay? Now, this leads us to step 3. Now you have a receipt. All right, well, while the auditor started the process and you have taken that money over to the treasurer's office to be deposited, now we need to get it posted properly to the auditor's ledger, okay, to make sure that it gets on the official record. So now you're going to take that receipt that you got from the treasurer to the auditor's office so they can post to their ledger. Once posted, the auditor will issue you a quietus for your records. The auditor verifies the receipt to the report of collections that you gave them in step 1 and then posts to the official record of the county. The quietus is what should represent that the process has been completed and the money has been posted to each set of records. Treasurer and the auditor both keep their own set of records, but the auditor is the official record of the county. I have a disclaimer here. So if you are going down to the auditor's office to turn your money in for the month, do not just take your report of collections and your money and lay it on the counter in there, okay? Until the treasurer issues a receipt, the transfer of custody has not taken place. And if money ends up coming up missing or that check can't be found, it's the responsibility of the office leaving it, which means it will be your office's responsibility, okay? Without a quietus, there is no proof that this exchange has taken place, okay? So we need to get to the end of the process. All right, so at the end of the process, what does everybody have? Well, the auditor has the information they need to post to the funds ledger and proof that the money is in custody of the treasurer. The treasurer has information needed to post their copy of the funds ledger based on the amount, okay? And then the person paying the information has the information on the amount posted to the funds ledger and a receipt to show that the transfer of funds to the treasurer, okay? So everybody has what they need, and the exchange of custody has taken place. Okay. Now we've discussed collecting fees, we've discussed receipting fees, deposits, and turning over the collections to the county. Once in the auditor's office, so once the auditor's office has recorded or posted the report of collections, it's put into different separate funds. And you'll see that on your report of collections, obviously. You're telling them which fund to credit that money to. So I thought we'd kind of give you a small explanation of what fund accounting kind of is, okay? So this fund is defined as a separate accounting entity established from various sources, okay, that's self-balancing. So it's going to include your cash balance, all right, and your receipts and your disbursements for the calendar year, okay? Basically all the ins and the outs, but each fund will have its own balance. So all funds are required to have an appropriation before disbursements can be made unless there is specific statutory authority to spend without an appropriation, okay? So the statute would have to be very, very clear and say this fund can be monies and this fund can be spent without an appropriation. Otherwise, it would require an appropriation. What is an appropriation? So an appropriation is the permission to spend, okay? So while each fund would have a cash balance, it would also be required to have an appropriation, unless stated otherwise in statute, for you to spend money from that fund, okay? So just kind of a small explanation of fund counting. I don't want to get too deep, but let's kind of discuss the fund that you guys are going to be most familiar with. Okay, so while the clerks do have a budget within the general fund, they also have the clerk's record of perpetuation, all right? So this, again, I just put the whole statute on here. Hopefully you're able to see it. In the statute, if you look, there is no mention of not using an appropriation. So the clerk's record of perpetuation would be required to have an appropriation, okay, to spend money out of it. So in the beginning in Section A, it establishes the fund, and then it tells you what shall be deposited into the fund. Okay, so if you read those. If you go down to B, it tells you what this fund can be used for. It can be used for the preservation of records, the improvement of record-keeping systems and equipment, and the case management system. Okay? Okay, so now you have got the money. The money is in the fund. You know what fund you have. You've got a budget in the general fund. You've got this perpetuation fund out here. Now you're wanting to buy stuff for your office. Okay, so you could be buying supplies, or maybe you need a new scanner to help with your preservation of records. Really, anything that you're wanting to purchase needs to go through the claims process. Okay. Now, the claims process is really more the auditor's domain, and we discuss claims with them a lot. But the truth is, you as the clerk, you initiate that process every time you need to purchase something. So you start by filling out your accounts payable voucher, okay, which I put an example of it on here. So if I was going to guess, I'm going to say that a majority of you will be questioned about a claim from your auditor from one time to another. So we're going to try and maybe make that a minimum, okay? We thought we'd just start by letting you understand what the auditor is looking for in the claim, okay, because they are required to audit the claim and look for certain things before submitting to the commissioners for approval. So first things first, where do you get this claim form? It's also County Form 17. All right, so the county auditor acquires these forms from the local print vendor, okay? We don't have these forms. I mean, we do prescribe them, but it is something that would have to be gotten from a local print vendor. Okay, so in Indiana Code 511-10-2, it outlines the approval of allowance of claims, and then there's more information within the Accounting and Uniform Compliance Guidelines Manual for county auditors. In fact, it's Chapter 8, page 2. If you're interested, it's located on our website in the auditor's page if you really just want to dig in deep and read more on this. So what is the auditor looking for when auditing a claim? And really, there's 6 main things. Number 1, the claim must be itemized and supported. So what does this mean? Each claim should have supporting documentation to what has been purchased or needs to be reimbursed. The easiest way here is to attach the invoice with the claim. All right, so number 2, prices charged are in accordance with contracts awarded where applicable. So if a claim is associated with a contract, then the auditor is responsible to determine if the charges are in agreement with that contract. Number 3, quantity and unit price added to agree to the total on the invoice. So the auditor is also responsible to verify that the invoice charges agree to the billed amount. An example, let's say 2 office chairs were purchased for $100 each. The invoice includes this information, and the total would be, or should be, $200 for the chairs plus any shipping charges, okay? This is where the auditor is probably going to verify that sales tax wasn't paid either, okay? Number 4, claims must be approved by the officer receiving the goods or services. So this is where your signature comes in handy. Goods and services, or the auditor is verifying that they've been received. So goods and services must not be paid in advance of receipt of these goods and services unless specifically authorized by law. Okay, 5, the sufficient funds and appropriation are available. We kind of touched on this a little bit ago. So the auditor needs to determine if there's enough cash in the fund and if there's applicable available appropriations. So I do kind of just want to clarify a little bit because sometimes this gets confused. cash balance in the fund is the amount of cash that is there, the amount of cash you have to work with, okay? But the appropriation is really just the permission to spend that cash, okay? The appropriation is normally smaller than your cash balance, okay? So when you go and do your budget, and you probably looked at your budget coming in to see what you have available for this year, that's when we're talking about the appropriation. When they do that budget and they make those appropriations to those line items, it is giving you permission to spend so much cash out of the fund. So number 6, claim. They also are verifying that the claim has not been previously paid. So the auditor looks to verify that it hasn't been submitted before and paid. All right. And once that all of those above have been audited and verified, the auditor is required to sign certifying the claim that everything here is good to go. So additionally, the auditor will need to know what fund number and account number, again, you wish to apply that claim towards. That'll be put on the claim form. You need to work with them to determine which expenditure accounts are the correct ones to use. So communication is always key. The fund number tells them the overall fund the claim should be dispersed from, while the account breaks it down further into categories such as supplies or other services and charges, and this is where they put the claim against the appropriation. So any applicable determinations would also need to be included on the claim form. This is really good to do with claims, with all claims, but especially important when it comes to like your perpetuation fund. We know there have been times that the auditors have questioned these claims, and we just recommend that you put that determination of why it qualifies as preservation of records, record-keeping systems, or even case management systems on the claim. This tells the auditor and our field staff what that determination was and why you believe it should be paid from that perpetuation fund, and getting into the habit of doing this and providing that information on the claim makes it easier down the road. Okay, so you're not having to try to go back and remember what you purchased and how that determination was made at a later point. This is really a quick reminder that timeliness is very important. So the auditor has to have time to audit the claims. They have to be able to certify them before presenting them to the county commissioners for approval. So you have to take care into not turning in your claim like on a Monday that you expect to get paid on Tuesday. All right? It's important that all offices work together so that the county can perform the required procedures. This has happened before where, you turned in, you expect a payment, or vice versa, you've turned it in early and it doesn't get paid on time. So when we come in to do the audit and we pull these claims, and you start, especially when you start talking about like late fees and interest, if you're, need to pay a claim and it doesn't get paid on time and interest or a penalty is put on that, we come in and, we're going to look at where did it get hung up. That's going to be our responsible party. So if you turned it in on a Monday expecting it for a Tuesday, well then you did not give them enough time. So that would fall on you. But if you turned it in 2 weeks in advance and the auditor just didn't get to looking at it, it didn't get through for another month, well then that would fall on the auditor's responsibility. And even going as far as if you turned it in 2 weeks in advance, the auditor got to it and it just didn't get approved for payment from the commissioners, well then it got jammed up there. So you kind of got to see where it gets jammed up. So everybody needs to work together to make this process smoothly and timely so that these things don't occur. Okay, and really this is our information again. I know this is really just a kind of a high-level brief, discussion on claims and receipting. But at this time, I'm going to maybe in the slideshow here. Hello? Are you there? I stopped sharing? Oh, you disappeared for a moment. Oh. I'm sorry. I was like, oh no, they all left. Okay. Your flappers.
I'm not down.
Okay, I am going to open it up. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask, you can use your microphones or you can use the chat box. We just ask that you do not speak over each other so we can hear everybody. Or it was just so clear. No questions. Wendy, you always ask a question.
I know, and here I go. You just introduced me. Thank you, Ricky. That's because I'm a newbie.
No, I like questions. Bring them on.
Well, thank you. So I just came across a claim that was returned to my attention that it only got partially paid by the auditor back when it wasn't in my budget. It was before my time. So I'm not sure how or why that would have happened. I've reached out to the vendor to see if there's any delinquency on there or if there was some mistranscribing of something. So I'm wondering how that affects my budget now. If it's going to be paid, half of it, the rest of it's going to be paid now, does that affect my budget for the year?
I mean,
it should have been paid a year ago, I guess. I don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, it would go against your current year budget. And so, I mean, yes, it does have an effect this year if it didn't get paid last year. And obviously I don't know what transpired and why it didn't get paid. But that would be something you probably need to find out and see where it got hung up and why they didn't authorize to pay the whole thing. Maybe there's something else going on there. Maybe goods weren't. I really don't know. You just have to ask.
Okay. All right. I'll check into that. That was one question I had. How it affects my budget now.
Yes, it will go against it, and you may have to as you get towards the end of the year, you may have to ask for an additional if you don't have enough to get you through.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The expectation is that you would have received that, and obviously you weren't there last year, but that should have been received very quickly. I mean, at the point that the auditor determined it could not be paid, they should have been in communication with your office to say, hey, here's the problem. How do you want to handle it? You don't just ignore a claim, ignore a bill for 6 months. There has to be some sort of resolution at the time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It caught me off guard, and I brought the other clerk in, and she was surprised. So it was just a partial payment for some weird reason, and I'm still investigating that, try to get all my data before I do anything with it. So I'll get your feedback on that.
Anybody else?
I do have a question.
Okay, ask away.
Okay. Yesterday, we completed our monthly report, and on the 46 CR, it shows fees payable to the county in the amount of $34,888.89. But when we did the reconcilement, and on the account balances, it came out to a lesser number because there was a deposit credited twice. That is reflected on the 46 CR. But there's not a note on here that shows that the check that actually went to the treasurer is for a lesser amount. Do you follow what I'm saying? So should the 46 CR with the incorrect amount, is that what it should be, or should it somehow be changed to reflect the amount that actually went?
Isn't there the 46 CR and like the report of collections would be two different things, right? So I want to make sure that we got that. Isn't there some place on the 46 CR where you would list that, like that deposit that you're talking about happened twice, something there, so where you can identify what that is?
It does, yes, but there's nothing on here to me that indicates why the fees payable to the county is different than the check that was actually cut. You understand what I'm saying?
So it's not reconciling to that. Well, I see what you're saying because you're doing it in total. I mean, you can make a note on that.
Would that be appropriate to just make a note at the bottom of the 46 CR and say bank reconciliation reduced fees payable to the county?
Yeah, because it would. I mean, your report of collections you should be able to reconcile your report of collections to that monthly report.
Right.
So, yeah, just make a reference on what caused it, just so that, you know.
Okay.
That's the reconciling item. That's all it would be.
Yeah. Well, to me, I mean, you've got one amount and then you've got another amount for the check was cut for. And it's like there's nothing on here that really explains why. You know, there's not a place to make any explanation where something doesn't balance out or equal the same totals. So it would be okay just to write in
make
at the
a note
bottom.
on there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That works.
Yay.
I want to talk with one of you at some point later about monthly reports that Spencer County has been submitting on the monthly basis, because some of the stuff that's in there, it may be correct, it probably is, but like your end of year report, I'm seeing something that doesn't make sense to me, okay? And I want to make sure that the right thing is in there. So I will be getting with one of you at some point. Okay? Okay. Okay. Thanks.
You are very welcome. Anybody else? I saw Destry on here. I think she asks a question every now and again. She's not going to this time, though.
She gave her contribution.
She said, "No, I'm good. No, I'm good." Yep. And then what else we got? We got Stacy. Stacy, you have any questions for us? I don't see anything. Well, we can let you guys go this afternoon. Oh, wait. Nope. She says she thinks she's good too. Too new to know. Well, that is what we're here for. So, like we said, always, our door is always open, whether you want to email us or whether you want to call and talk to us. It's always open. Ask us what you want. We would rather be on the front end helping you sort something out than you just trying to stick it out on your own and, it'd be a harder issue to solve at the end. So always call us. There is no stupid questions, as Lori has said repeatedly, none. This is all new. You're new. You've been in office for 1 month and 10 days at this point? 41 days, I guess, technically. Hopefully you've got your feet wet. You at least have seen stuff. You're starting to get into a rhythm. But let us know, and we will be more than happy to work with you and help you with the accounting stuff. It's a court stuff or like legal stuff. I can't really tell you that. I'm not a lawyer. But if you've got accounting issues and internal controls, Lori and I would just love to talk to you about it. Okay, so we are here. We will, like I said, you guys have one more session, and that is on the 17th with courts and court technology. So we do, it's going to be a really good session. Jeff always does a really great job. He is probably one of the highlights of our conferences, wouldn't you say, Lori?
I would say he's the rock star for us.
Yep, he's the rock star. So you don't want to miss him. And with that, if there's no further questions, we'll let you guys go for today. Have a wonderful afternoon. Stay warm. It's cold here, so stay really, really warm. And let's just hope that spring comes before too long. Yes. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, ladies.